Okay, today I want to go over some of the innovations, the latest innovation in C Lightning, and specifically the ability to send custom messages over the peer-to-peer message bus, which opens up for uh, a lot of possibilities in protocol development. So what I'm going to do today is create a plugin that uses these new features and create a very light protocol on top of that, which basically will wrap the RPC calls and allow someone to call RPC calls from another node, which you don't want to do in the real world. You want to like maybe limit it to where maybe only they can create invoices or something to that effect. But for illustration purposes, it's good. I don't have to write a whole bunch of API stuff, so it makes it easier to demonstrate. So that's what I went with today. We're using this dev send custom message that you see on this page, which is available if you have compiled in dev mode, which is important here. And you can see this line here, the dev send custom message. You give it a node ID and you give it a message, which was not really a good explanation here of what that is. But if you look at the receiving end under the plugin hook, the custom message hook, you have the JSON object there is what you will be receiving, the pure ID of who sent it to you, and the message is these first 4 bytes. There's actually some additional bytes come in that I have to strip out, so I don't know if this is accurate or what, but the first 4 bytes we're concerned about anyway is the type that we're assigning to our custom protocol. And the OK to be odd specification you can see here. If we give it an odd number, we're good to go. So you have that type, and anything following the type is your actual data. And it has to be a hex encoded string, which you have to encode and you have to decode, which may sound a little bit intimidating, but not really. You could do something simple like just send a JSON string and parse that at the other end, and there's plenty of ways to do that. But what I'm going to do here is probably a little bit better. I'm using CBOR, which is Concise Binary Object Representation, and I'm using the Python plugin module, and I'm using this CBOR 2 as the library. But basically what CBOR is you can see the JSON object on the left, and that will convert it to binary bytes. You can see that JSON is 130 bytes, and everything in the left column would just be kind of scrunched together. This is, breaking it down, explaining it step by step. But we really don't need to know that. We just need something that the C Lightning will understand. So if we convert it to bytes and convert it to a byte string, we can, plug it in after our type in the message and send that along. And then on the other end, use that same CBOR2 library to decode the CBOR back into a Python dictionary. So that's what we're working with today, and we can go through the code to get an idea of what I'm trying to accomplish here with the plugin. So we have a plugin method where we have a messages array, and basically what we're doing every time we receive a message, we're just going to push it onto that array. So we create this method that the plugin can see through the RPC list received objects, and that will just return the messages. So that's pretty simple. To send a message, we have another RPC message, send custom object, which can be any object, and we're going to use, I'll get to it as we get down to it. But basically, whatever object we send in, we're going to push it along, and as long as it's, we do some checks. As long as it's not too big to fit over the wire, if it's, not this message type, we want to check for that message type. Well, we're setting it here, but on the other end, we want to check for it. So, and basically what we're doing is we're taking the CBOR and encoding it right here. We're converting it to the hex string right here so we can send it. And then we're just calling the built-in RPC command to send it. The ID is who we're sending it to, and the message string is the CBOR encoded string with that type prepended to it. So there you have that. And as far as on the receiving end, you have this custom hook that we're creating on the custom message command. So anytime you see a command custom message, C-Lightning will call this hook. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the bytes from the message, and we're going to get the length of it, which we're not really using, and just for illustration that the length is going to be there. Like I said, there's some previous bytes prepended to it. There's 2 bytes that I don't know what they are, admittedly, but we're going to start with bytes 2 and 3 are going to give us the length. Bytes 4 and 5 will give us the code. Remember, we said it was 1997. If it's not the one that we understand, we're just see you later, we're done. But otherwise, we're going to say, okay, anything from byte 6 on out, that's got to be my CBOR bytes. So I take my CBOR bytes here and I create an object from it. And when I have that object, I just push it onto that messages array that we talked about earlier. Now, if that object has an RPC method key in it, then we're going to go a little bit further and we're going to call the RPC method locally and return the results. If it doesn't have that, we're done. We just, skip down the bottom to the return statement. It may or may not have parameters, so we're just going to, make it empty if there is none. Otherwise, we're going to get the parameters from that object we just decoded. So now we're going to try and call whatever that RPC method was. The object with that key is going to have a value of the string that represents RPC messages. So if we list invoices or whatever, that's what that would put in there, and then whatever parameters if you want a specific invoice. Then we're going to get the result converted to a string, and I have to do some hacking here because there's the way the Python object is. There's you can have 0, 9, 0 MSAT, but it's not in quotes, so it's representing an object that it doesn't know how to serialize. So that's just a specific hack for this purpose. Probably not the best one, but so we're going to try that. If we get an exception, well, we just send back an error message. Otherwise, error message here. Otherwise, we're going to send the results of the RPC command we made. So that's our little plugin. That's our little protocol, light protocol that we developed using the RPC method. So basically, if I come over here, I can see, I'm already connected. I already got the plugins up and running. So I can call this basic method, and it's just a simple object with first and last name, Ethel and Mertz. And if I send that to Fred, it's queued up, and I can come down, this is my objects, but I won't have anything yet because it wasn't an RPC method. If I had an RPC method, I'm automatically returning a response on the receiving end. So, but if I go over to Fred and call that same method, I can see that I received an object, and here's what the value was. First Ethel, last Mertz. So far so good. I'm able to send objects and get them out on the other end. Now I want to do an RPC command. I want to get an invoice from Fred on Ethel's end. So Fred's going to create the invoice, and Ethel's going to have it, and she can pay it. So if I call that, and I looked at my received objects, I got the invoice from Fred. So I can copy that. I can pay the invoice. Okay, invoice paid. I got the pre-image. So without Fred having to do anything, since we built this little protocol, Ethel can create an invoice for Fred on Fred's behalf and pay it herself. So I can go to Fred's end and I can call this again, and I should have an additional request for the invoice that you can see there. When I got that request, I automatically sent the response with the invoice because it was calling an RPC command. So you can also, the way this is written, you can do malicious things like Ricky's not connected here, but Ethel can come in and call the connect command right here. with Ricky's ID, since it's just an RPC command, we can see that, oh, well, Fred, did he get the RPC command? Yes, he did. And so what that ended up doing was connecting to Ricky. So that's just one way to illustrate that you can do, a whole bunch of things, or you can share a bunch of data. Like I said, you don't want to do it in this way, but, it was good for illustration. So there you go.